This is the story of a boy who was so hopelessly in love with his classmate Aika that he followed her everywhere like a loyal puppy. He truly believed that if he just kept trailing behind her, maybe one day Aika would fall for him too. But one day, during his usual daily stalker routine, a ball suddenly flew out of a nearby field and hit him. In that instant, it was as if his eyes finally opened. He realized that, to Aika, he had probably just become some weird stalker. Right then, Aika walked up and asked if he was okay. But she didn't stop there. She bluntly told him that this was happening because he was always hovering around her, and from now on she wanted him to stay away. To her surprise and maybe his own, Seijo quietly agreed without a single argument. The next day at school, we meet Ki, Aika's best friend. As always, she teased Seijo, warning him that if he kept acting like this, Aika would only dislike him more. In the middle of their chatting, the class teacher walked in and was shocked to see Seijo calmly sitting in his seat without bothering Aika at all. Normally, he'd be lingering near her desk like some devoted pet. Later, as Seijo was walking through the school corridor, Aika and Ki spotted him. Aika straight up told him to stop following her, but Seijo, keeping it cool, replied that he was just on his way to the restroom, then casually walked off. A group of boys stopped him and asked what was really going on between him and Aika. Seijo told them it was nothing, he was just in a different mood today. Looking at his reflection in the mirror, he asked them, "Do I really look like I'm in love with Aika?" They laughed and said, "Bro, it's obvious. You're living for her." Later during break, when Aika asked Seijo where he was going, he simply said he was off to buy lunch. The whole class was shocked as every day he usually asked for food from Aika like a spoiled puppy. Then the scene shifts and we see Seijo as he was about to sit down and eat. A girl suddenly approached him and asked, "You're Seijo, right?" He was caught off guard and tried to brush her off, but she introduced herself as Reena and then walked away. When he returned to class, the same boy from earlier started teasing him again. Then Reena showed up looking for him. Seijo couldn't help but wonder, what is she doing here? Meanwhile, his friends start teasing him and pressed him for answers about what was going on between them. Just then, a group of girls walked in, and Seijo hurried to explain the situation to Aika. But when he noticed she looked a little upset, he simply let her go without saying more. During PE, Aika ignored him again. Distracted, he lost in basketball match. Later, on his way to wash his face, Ki intercepted him. Smirking, she said, "So you're looking for other girls now? Like some kind of cheater?" She was referring to Reena. When Seijo heard that Reena had recently broken up with her boyfriend, he decided to go talk to the guy to find out what Reena really thought. Seijo overhears Reena's ex telling his friends, "Maybe my type of girl is someone like Aika." Hearing this makes Seijo pause and think there really are all kinds of people in the world. Just then, Ki shows up and starts teasing him again, saying, "What's the matter, man? Still upset about that whole Reena thing?" Seijo was about to ask her something, but Reena suddenly appears, saying she needs to talk to him. Meanwhile, Ki, grinning, cuts in and says, "Oh, then let's just clear it up. Why did you break up with your ex?" She adds mockingly, "That guy must be messed up in the head to dump such a great girl." Reena can't take it anymore and became furious. She says, "Please stop judging other people's exes," and storms off. Seijo runs after her but ends up bumping into a cute girl carrying some things. As he tries to apologize, the girl gets flustered and runs away without saying a word. When he finally catches up with Reena, the first thing he does is apologize for what Ki said. Then, for the first time, he openly admits, just like all the rumors say, yes, he really did like Aika. But after being rejected so many times, he feels it's finally time to move on. He then asks Reena about her ex-boyfriend. Reena tells him that she'd heard her ex say that girls like Aika were his type. And even though her ex never really liked her that way, hearing that still hurt. That's why she wanted him to feel the same pain she did. At that moment, Seijo also opens up for the first time about his own past. Back in middle school, a girl had rejected him so cruelly that when her boyfriend hit him, he went flying and landed right near Aika. But unlike everyone else, Aika didn't push him away. She held his hand. That's when his one-sided love for her began. Seijo says that even if Aika never loved him back, he can still support her from a distance if it means she'll be happy. Before Reena leaves, he tells her it wasn't just her ex who was like that. Maybe every guy has a little of that in them. Back at school, Seijo says that he never expected to get anything from Aika. The time they spent together was reward enough. Then the same boys from before start teasing them again, but Seijo brushes it off with a laugh, saying, "Hey, don't bother us. We're in the middle of a divorce." After school, we see that Aika suddenly shows up at Seijo's house. She tells him that his normal behavior lately was making him seem even weirder because now he doesn't seem weird at all. Seijo clears the air and once again asks if she'll go out with him. Aika rejects him yet again. This time, for the first time, he doesn't call her by her name, but instead, he sincerely apologizes for bothering her all this time, speaking with complete respect. But the moment isn't private for long, as Seijo's sister, who had been eavesdropping eavesdropping, interrupts them. So Seijo ends it there and offers to walk Aika home. On the way, Aika asks what else he had wanted to say to her. Seijo tells her that from now on he won't bother her at all, he just wants them to be normal classmates. Then, jokingly he asks if she has any friend who might be his type. Hearing this, Aika becomes sad and hurt. Angrily she runs away. Later on the next day, Seijo tells Ki that maybe it really is time to move on, and he's looking at his new seat in class as a fresh start. Ki interrupts him and says, if you're really serious, then you should also know this, that Aika never had any friends. You were always hanging around her, and because of that, she never got the chance to make any. Hearing this only strengthens Seijo's resolve, and from now on, he'll truly support her from a distance, so she can be happy. During break, the same old guy, Yamaki, asks Seijo if he's been feeling a bit down lately. Seijo just smiles, says something lightly, and walks out of the classroom. On the way, he runs into Rin, the sharp, no-nonsense president of the school's moral public committee. Seijo realizes she's connected to the girl he bumped into the other day. He apologizes to Rin and tries to leave, but she stops him and explains that the girl is extremely uncomfortable around boys and that's why she reacted the way she did. Seijo starts walking away again, but this time Rin grabs his arm and takes him straight to the student counseling room. There, she tells him the girl's name Yu Inami. Yu was also a member of the moral committee, hardworking, disciplined, and just as dedicated as Rin herself. But despite all that, sometimes her confidence wavers, and she suddenly falls into negative thinking. Seijo suggests maybe she feels that way because she sees someone as amazing as Yu working so perfectly. Rin smiles faintly and admits that sometimes she feels she's part of the problem because when she tries to motivate those girls, they often reply, "You're the president. For you, everything's easy." In other words, they don't take her words to heart, thinking she could never truly understand them. Seijo then offers an interesting piece of advice. You don't have to motivate them, just give them a light pat on the shoulder and stand by their side. For a leader, that kind of quiet support is enough. Because you're such a respected figure to them, even your silent presence can bring their confidence back. As he's about to leave, Rin asks his name. Not wanting to prolong the conversation, Seijo lies, "My name's Yamaki." The next day, Seijo was helping his sister Keed carry some supplies to the student council room when his sister, the vice president, notices Aika walking alone again. She nudges Seijo, "Go on this time, have a proper conversation with her." When the two meet, the air between them was so tense that neither says a word. They just walk together in silence until they reach school. That's when Kei tells Seijo that Rin, the moral committee president, is looking for him and she's angry. Seijo tries to slip away, but Rin steps right out and confronts him face to face. "Why did you lie about your name?" Then she demands him to come to the counseling room during break. During the break time, Seijo arrives and, as an apology, he offers them some snacks. Rin asks him why he felt the need to lie about his name. Seijo explains, "Think about it, if a girl from the committee knew my real name, it could cause all sorts of trouble. And besides, there's no harm in using Yamaki's name." After this, Seijo gets up to leave, but Rin then tells him that this wasn't the reason she called him for. She actually wanted you to apologize to him for what happened that day. Yu sincerely apologizes and says she'll do her best to overcome her fear of men. On the way back to class, Seijo notices Aika was now surrounded by other girls. When Ki asks if he's going to sit with them, he refuses. In his heart, he thinks, maybe it's true that I was the real reason Aika never had friends. I was the one who kept her world so small. Just then, the vice president calls Seijo and assigns him to administrative duties. Meanwhile, in next scene we see Yu, who tells Rin that when I apologized to Seijo, I felt like there was something in his eyes, like he wanted to say something to me but couldn't. Rin remembers the advice Seijo gave her, and instead of giving a big speech, she simply places a light hand on Yu's shoulder. The next day, Aika's new friends ask her, "Can we come over to your place today? Your little sister is so cute." They make plans, and that's when Ki turns to Seijo and asks, "You're coming too, right?" Seijo's eyes immediately go to Aika, waiting for her permission. But the answer he gets was sharp and firm. She says she would never let some random boy like him wander around near her little sister, and this really hurts Seijo. On his way home from school, Seijo was surprised when Aika suddenly walks up and asks, "So you're really not coming to my place?" But before he could answer, Rin shows up and tells them that she needs to speak with him privately. Aika stays quiet and lets Seijo leave with her. Rin gets straight to the point, "What do you really think about Yu's apology?" Seijo replies honestly, "It felt like her apology was just an excuse to say that she's going to try overcoming her discomfort around guys, but only because she was standing in front of someone like you. A few days later, Ki asks Seijo why he still hasn't said a single word to Aika. Seijo says he's worried that if he talks to her now, it might ruin the small progress she's made with her new circle of friends. That's when we meet Sasaki, the full-on handsome, soccer club guy. He shows Seijo some pictures of Aika's little sister that he secretly took outside their house. Then he sends them to his own sister, who happens to have some brother complex. Later, during break, Seijo was eating alone when Yamasaki invites him to join his friend group. As they eat together, some of the girls teasingly ask if anything serious ever happened between him and Aika after all that time he spent around her. Then they ask if anything happened when Reena was interested in him. Before Seijo could answer, Aika storms in angrily, grabs him, and pulls him away to a secluded spot. Seijo was confused as he had no idea why she's so upset. Aika demands to know why he was talking to those girls. For a moment, her eyes show a flicker of jealousy and concern, but without saying another word, she turns and leaves. Later, Seijo was chatting with Kei when suddenly the student council president, Hayato, arrives and takes him aside for a private talk. Hayato explains that Keed has been feeling uneasy lately because of Seijo's sudden change in behavior. She feels that she is partly responsible. Maybe something she said made her younger brother abandon his carefree youth and change so drastically. Seijo understands her feelings and goes with Hayato to the place where his sister was waiting. Seijo tells her that she doesn't need to be afraid of sharing her feelings and the changes in him are ones he chose for himself. Keed replies that she feels like she's the reason Seijo gave up on the girl he loved. But Seijo smiles and says, "That's enough now. I've never really seen you as some sweet, gentle older sister, so there's no need for you to try to change. Sibling bonds are just like that sometimes." While they were talking, Aika suddenly appears, clearly upset, and tells Seijo to apologize for speaking to his sister like that. Seijo bluntly asks, "Did you really come all this way just because you were worried about me?" Aika says nothing, but her face gives her away. She turns around and walks off without another word. The next day, Ki admits that maybe she's been a bit too harsh with Seijo lately. Aika, looking a little shy, apologizes to him and says it just felt strange that her little sister got so close to him so quickly. Ki remarks that Aika has seemed a bit down lately, almost as if something's missing ever since Seijo stopped following her around. Aika herself doesn't really understand why she's been feeling this way, but Ki says bluntly, maybe, deep down, Seijo really does matter to you. Maybe it's time you take a step forward and do something for him. Meanwhile, Ki tells Seijo that he should probably get a haircut. He's starting to look a little messy. Seijo laughs. "Before, I did everything just to impress Aika. Now that I don't have that responsibility anymore, I even forgot about getting my hair cut." After class, we see that Aika hesitantly tries to reconnect with Seijo, but he doesn't pick up on her effort and just heads off to eat lunch alone. That's when Rin appears and says, "Come eat with us. You wants you to sit with you." That's when we meet Aya, Yu's childhood friend, and she feels a little uneasy about Seijo getting too close to Yu. After lunch, Rin asks Seijo how he feels about the change he's seeing in Yu. Instead of answering, Seijo asks her about Aya. Rin explains that Aya is like a mother when it comes to Yu. She is protective, loving, and extremely possessive. She's not the type Seijo might be imagining. In fact, she never thought badly of him. Aya knows it was Seijo who helped Yu overcome the fear of boys she'd carried for so long. Rin goes on to say that Seijo didn't just help Yu. He also gave Rin a fresh perspective on how she could support her own team. Then, when Rin mentions Seijo's sister by name, he's caught off guard and asks, "Wait, you know my sister?" Rin smiles and replies, "Yeah, I've known her since middle school. Back then she was the kind of spoiled, rebellious girl nobody could tame." Later, Seijo notices Sasaki looking a bit troubled. His younger sister keeps blowing up his phone with constant calls, bombarding him with questions like, "Where are you? Who are you with?" Eventually, Sasaki pulls Seijo aside and gets straight to the point. "So, what's really going on between you and Aika?" It turns out Sasaki has developed a serious interest in her. Hearing that, Seijo feels a burst of emotion. It starts to seem like Aika and Sasaki are slowly getting closer. As he's about to leave, Aika stops him and asks, "Where do you go during lunch these days?" Seijo answers honestly, "I've been eating with the girls from the moral committee." Aika's face twists into a confused expression. "So you're not going to sit with us anymore?" she asks. In that moment, Seijo realizes that maybe he's already taken a step back on his own, just from seeing Aika and Sasaki together. But as he turns to leave, Aika suddenly slips into nostalgia and says, "You know, maybe I wouldn't have even talked to you that day if your hair hadn't been black." We see that night, Seijo went to a shop looking for black hair dye. They were out of stock, so he picked up dark brown instead. With his sister's help, he dyes his hair overnight, almost like bringing back a glimpse of the old Seijo. The next day, he sees his exam ranking, and it's taken a huge plunge. He's no longer at the top. Maybe it's because he's not chasing after Aika anymore, and without that, his motivation's lost. Looking at the overall toppers list, he's shocked to see Aika now in the top 3. It hits him that maybe he was the reason she never rose higher before. Her old rank was 27, and now, while he slipped far down the list, she's among the top. A few days later, Aika's friends once again make plans to visit her house as they're still obsessed with how cute her little sister was. Sasaki jokes, "So, will Seijo be invited this time?" In the past few days, distance between Aika and Seijo has grown even more. The boy who used to hover around her all the time now keeps to himself. After lunch one day, Seijo notices some girls outside the classroom talking about Aika. When he tries to join in, one of them, startled by his sudden appearance, screams. Meanwhile, Seijo mimics her and plays it off as a joke, but the girls leave, embarrassed by his mimicking. On another day, Seijo and Aika were walking to school together when it suddenly starts to rain. As they walk, they accidentally bump into each other, and at that moment, Seijo sees a car speeding toward a puddle that's about to splash on Aika completely. Without thinking, he steps forward and shields her, taking the entire splash himself. By the time they reach school, Seijo was soaked through. At his desk, he collapses, burning up with a fever. On his way to the nurse's office, his condition worsens, and a memory suddenly engulfs him. A scene from middle school, back when he saw life from a completely different perspective. It was during that time when, one day, his lunch had fallen to the ground. That was the moment he first saw the girl he would love for many years to come. In the nurse's office, the nurse tells the other girls that Seijo's condition has gotten worse because his mental state is also unstable. In class, Rin suddenly comes in looking for him. When she learns that he is sick, Ki says she'll inform Seijo's sister and that they will both go visit him together. When the two arrive to see him, they find Seijo lying unconscious in bed. Seijo apologizes, saying it's his fault for troubling everyone. When Aika tries to check his temperature by touching his forehead, he refuses. He says, "I don't want you to get sick, so please don't touch me." However, when his sister and Rin arrive, he lets them approach and touch his forehead without hesitation. A few days later, the blonde girl seen earlier talks to Seijo again. When she spots Aika, she goes straight to her and tries to make a proposal. She introduces herself as Claudine and says she is a candidate for student council president, asking Aika to support her. Without hesitation, Seijo asks her if she simply wants Aika to be her promotional poster girl. Then he says that it's a terrible idea because Aika is far more beautiful than her, and if people start thinking that Aika is the real candidate when in fact it's her, voters would be deeply disappointed. Hearing this, Claudine was infuriated and lashes out at Aika. In front of the small crowd that has gathered, she declares that she will leave for now. Later, while Seijo was looking for lunch, Yu calls him over to eat with her. Rin also says he should join them, since she still hasn't managed to bring even one boy from the first or second years into her group. While eating, Yu takes his hand and tells him, "I trust you," causing the rest of the committee girls to burn with jealousy. A little later, an announcement comes from the student council and the moral committee. In the coming weeks, some middle school students will visit the high school for a tour so they can decide whether to apply in the future. For this event, students without club activities must participate in a volunteer game to decide who will become a guide. Both Seijo and Aika take part in the game. Luckily, Seijo avoids being chosen as a volunteer, but Aika wasn't so fortunate. At that moment, Sasaki, who was interested in Aika, switches places with someone else to become a volunteer himself so he can spend more time with her. After this, we see Seijo working at an old books and magazine store. During his shift, he notices from a distance that some middle school boys were bullying a younger child. He immediately steps in, asking the child for a family member's phone number so they can be called. After a while, we see a girl arrive, mature and calm-looking, making Seijo think she must be a university student. The next day, while he was sitting alone, Keat asks if he has received Rin's invitation to join the Moral Public Committee. Keat goes on to say that if he doesn't join that committee, he should enter the student council, because she doesn't want the council to end up in the hands of someone unknown. That evening, the same girl from yesterday comes back to the shop. Seijo, a bit nervous, says that she seemed so mature that he got a little intimidated. The girl smiles and replies that it's the first time anyone has told her that. People usually say she looks cute or childlike for her age. After a bit of conversation, she thanks Seijo for helping her that day and says that talking to him made her realize a lot of things, since she hadn't had a proper conversation with a boy in a long time. Before leaving, she gives him a small gift and asks if she can come to the store again. A few days later, the same girl, Fuka, comes to the shop again, and the two of them chat for a while. Seijo compliments the handmade accessory she's wearing, to which Fuka explains that she made it herself with her dad at a small shop by the seaside. When Seijo hears the name of that place, he wonders if he should give something like that to Aika this year or maybe do something special one last time for his one-sided love. But then, seeing the joy on Fuka's face as she talks about the place, he realizes how excited she is about it herself. So, he asks her, "Would you like to go there with me?" As soon as they reach the metro station, Seijo notices that Fuka looks a little uncomfortable. He asks if everything's alright. Fuka quietly says that going out dressed like this feels strange, since she usually just wears her middle school uniform. Surprised, Seijo asks if her friends never say anything about it. Fuka smiles and says they do, but she's very attached to those clothes, so it's not easy to let them go. Meanwhile, on the other side, Aika's friends were also making plans to go to the beach with Aika's younger sister. On the way, they pass by Seijo's house. He invites him to join them, but he refuses, since he's already at the beach with Fuka. While there, Seijo finds himself wondering what dates in university must be like. After a moment's thought, he asks Fuka if she comes to the beach often. Fuka tells him yes, she comes every year with her family, though not too often, because her swimsuits don't last long. After that, they visit the shop where Fuka had been with her dad before. The shop owner immediately recognizes Fuka and remarks that her mature behavior makes her stand out. When the two clarify that they're just friends, the shop owner gives them a tour and explains how they can make their own handmade accessories. During this, Seijo starts thinking that if this gift is for Aika, he should make something absolutely perfect for her. While he's absorbed in picking the right gift, the shop owner reads the thoughtful look on his face and gives him a few good ideas. Then Fuka suddenly asks if the girl he's making the accessory for is his girlfriend. Seijo smiles faintly and says no. Fuka presses, "Then why give such a special gift to a girl who's not your girlfriend?" Seijo, without hesitation, says that even if she's no longer the one he loves, those feelings don't just vanish in a single day. And his love for Aika wasn't meaningless. It helped him become a slightly better person. Hearing this, Fuka gives a faint smile and says there's hardly anyone in the world who wouldn't be happy to receive a gift from someone close to them. Those words seal Seijo's decision that he will definitely give Aika a special gift on her birthday. While they're both working on their crafts, Seijo notices a photo on the wall of Fuka with her father. He asks if she has a younger sister. Fuka replies no, that photo was taken recently when she came to the shop with her dad. Now here comes a twist. Fuka, who until now seemed like a university student, was actually a final year student at an all-girls high school. A little later, while crafting, Fuka suddenly asks, "Why are you still doing all this? For a girl you've already let go of?" Seijo stays quiet for a moment, then says, "Maybe now I'm doing it for myself, not for anyone else." Then, smiling, he adds, "Maybe you'll understand when you fall in love someday." Hearing this, Fuka blushes and shyly asks, "What exactly is love?" Seijo, a bit moved, admits he doesn't know exactly what love is either, but whatever he felt back then helped him become more human. Elsewhere, Aika sees someone who looks like Seijo walking with a girl. She stares for a moment but convinces herself it can't be Seijo. He's just an idiot after all. Meanwhile, Seijo tells Fuka she doesn't need to be nervous about love. Such feelings arrive in life without warning. A few days later, a slightly shy girl named Ainos comes into Seijo's bookstore. She's his classmate and is looking for a part-time job, since Seijo was about to quit. The shop owner doesn't even need her resume, since she's already a regular customer and they trust her. But when the owner's wife sees her face, she remarks that her heavy bangs hide too much of it and should be trimmed. Later, Seijo asks her, "How do you even read books with such long bangs?" Ichino responded by showing her a hair clip that she always wore while reading. Seeing this, the shop's auntie seemed satisfied and allowed her to work in that state. The next day, the shop owner assigns Seijo the responsibility of teaching Ichinos how to do the job. The first thing Seijo explained was that whenever she was working, she should always wear her hair clips. Then he went over the other steps and noticed that Ichinos had quite a reserved and quiet nature. During this time, a rude customer came to the counter, which made Ichinos uncomfortable, forcing Seijo to step in. But after that incident, Ichinos broke down inside and started crying. Seeing this, Seijo began to wonder, was she really ready for this job? Seijo decided he would teach her how to handle clients. While standing at the counter, he asked the shopkeeper if his wife was really okay with letting such a shy girl deal with customers. The owner expressed confidence, saying Ichino was actually one of the store's most regular and interesting customers. Hearing this, Seijo promised that he would help her fit into the role. He gave her some tips, such as listening carefully to customers, even if they were rude, and responding with confidence. When Seijo asked her if she felt the need to prove herself, Ainos lowered her head and said no, but she didn't want to give up. So, Seijo told the owner that instead of sending her away, he would do everything he could to help her stick with the job. Later, they even sought advice from Aika over a video call, and Aika gave them space so they could talk properly. The next morning, Seijo apologized and gave Ainos even more tasks to help her improve. During break time, while standing a little away from others, he asked why this job was so important to her. Ainos revealed she wanted to become independent, especially to live apart from her older brother because once, she had seen a pair of heels at home and then witnessed a passionate kiss between her brother and a girl in his room. That sight had deeply shaken something inside her. A few days later, Fuka visited again, and since she also liked books, Seijo arranged a customer interaction exercise between them. Fuka did well at first, but when Ainos played her part, she froze up, making everyone laugh. Later, Seijo explained that he had gotten her this job so that she could serve as a replacement when he left, since the workload wasn't really that heavy. That evening, while making coffee for his sister, Seijo thought maybe Ainos had chosen this job because she had no one else to talk to as she didn't have any close friends in her course. When he returned to the shop, he found her carrying boxes of books like a little primary schooler. But seeing the way she carefully and sincerely handled them, Seijo told her that she was doing it perfectly. This was something the shopkeeper had taught her, and her smile genuinely looked beautiful. By noon, when work ended, Ainos' older brother finally managed to arrive at the shop. He asked her to come outside for a meal, but when he stood close to her, Ainos suddenly clung to Seijo. Her brother pulled her aside, asking why she was hanging on to this guy, but she only moved even closer to Seijo like a little girl staying near her hero. And in Seijo's heart, a new question began to echo. Was this the beginning of a new relationship? Seijo takes Ainos and her brother to a restaurant so they can properly sort things out. There, Seijo directly asks her brother if he knows why Ainos was working a part-time job in the first place. When the brother falls silent, it's clear he had no idea. Embarrassed, he promises that he won't neglect his sister anymore and will spend time with her like before. That's when Yuri arrives, the brother's girlfriend. She folds her hands and apologizes to Ainos, saying, "I know I interfered in your life, but maybe this is all a bit too soon for you. I don't want my presence to be the reason a family breaks apart." But before she can decide anything, Seijo cuts in and says, "At least hear Ainos out. She has something to say too." Seijo firmly tells them that Ainos has been handling her shop job exceptionally well, and he wants the brother and Yuri's relationship to remain as it is, so that Ainos can continue taking steps toward growing up in her own way. After all, living apart from her brother doesn't mean their bond is over. They can still laugh together like siblings do. Ainos also has the right to make her own choices. Hearing this, Yuri and the brother get emotional and leave. Seijo then says to Ainos, "They came here to take you back, but I don't think your passion should go to waste." A few days later, Fuka comes to the shop again. Leaving, Seijo was stunned to see her beauty. Is this girl really just a high school student? Meanwhile, looking at Ainos, he thinks the one everyone assumes a schoolgirl is actually in university, and the one they assume a university girl is still in high school. Meanwhile, Fuka and Ainos' shared love of books quickly turns the two girls into friends. Later we see Keed comes up to Seijo and says, "We know everything. The student council's intel is very strong. We know you've been helping Ainos." Seijo teases her, "With the way you work, you seem like some overworked corporate employee." Keed smirks and says, "If you have this much free time, why don't you help me with the school tour?" Seijo refuses, but Keed slyly says, "Not for me, for Rin." Since Seijo still owed Rin a favor, he agrees. Calling Rin, he asks if she needs help. Rin politely declines, but Seijo says he was planning to ask her in person anyway. After a moment's hesitation, Rin accepts. The next day, Rin explains that during this tour, the student council and class delegates are responsible for showing the junior students around. But this time, their duty is to make sure all the materials are perfectly arranged so the overall impression is flawless. In a light tone, Rin remarks that perhaps when choosing guides, the school prioritized sociable and good-looking students. Seijo glances at her and smiles and asks if he's one of them. At the morality committee meeting, Ainos' brother admits that after that conversation at the restaurant, his sister kept talking about Seijo, and now she seemed to have a whole new energy, like she had finally found the genuine guide she needed for her part-time job. Meanwhile, Sasaki tried inviting Aika to a football club training session, but Aika refused because she had to take care of her younger sister. That moment gave us a glimpse into Ayaka's past, how her responsibility for her sister had nearly erased her social life. But then one day, a boy appeared before her, the same boy whose tray she had seen fall from his hands. When no one came to help him, Aika saw herself in him, alone, troubled, and withdrawn. withdrawn and moved her hand to help him. And few days later, the same boy finally opens his heart to Aika and asked, "Your kindness has captivated me. Will you go out with me?" Aika turns him down, saying she already has too many responsibilities in her life. But the boy doesn't give up. He keeps following her around, smiling, and even enrolls in the same school where Aika studied. Despite her own performance always being average there, he manages to pass the admission test just for her. Because of Aika, he also comes into contact with new people who make him feel the joy of a happy school life. But ever since Seijo stopped following her around, Aika has felt a strange restlessness creeping into her heart. Was her life really complete without him? In that unease, the moment she spots Seijo, she runs toward him and bumps straight into him. Seijo was surprised that Aika actually came looking for him. He asks, "What happened? Is everything okay?" Aika stays quiet for a moment, then says, "We haven't talked in so long, I was feeling down." Hearing that, Seijo smiles and says he wanted to talk to her too, but he's been busy with committee work and his job. Then, in a slightly jealous tone, Aika asks, "Was it because of that Ainos thing?" Seijo freezes at the name, but then smiles and says, "Yeah, and honestly, thanks to your advice, I was able to handle her better." Aika doesn't respond further, and Seijo tries to change the subject. "So, what have you been up to these days?" But before she can answer, Kei shows up and breaks the romantic mood. Seijo then explains that he's been helping the committee at Rin's request, adding that the school picked attractive students to encourage more juniors to enroll. Kei, in a teasing tone, asks Seijo, "You're helping Ainos too, huh? Haven't fallen for her, have you?" Seijo looks a little embarrassed, and the conversation ends there. Before leaving, Aika quietly says, "See you, once all these school council works are over." A few days later, the senior members of the school give a motivational speech, and we see Fuka on tour with Aika and Sasaki's group. That's when Aika notices another group of boys harassing Reena, trying to forcefully propose to her. Without hesitation, Aika rushes over, gives them a cold scolding. By the time the school tour ends, the boys who had bothered Reena feel ashamed of their behavior and apologize to Aika, promising never to do it again, especially because they truly wanted to enroll in that school. Before the tour wraps up, Fuka spots Seijo from a distance and runs over to him. The girls with her ask if he's the famous Seijo who showed someone as naive and confused as Fuka the true meaning of life. Fuka, deliberately trying to provoke them, says, "No point in asking now. Seijo and I already have a deep connection when we went to the seaside together." Hearing this, Aika gets annoyed and immediately drags Seijo away with Kei. Then the two of them corner him and bombard him with questions about Fuka. Aika, a little shy, says, "If you're going to spend time with Fuka, then you'll have to spend just as much time with us too." A few days later, Seijo and Ainos were closing up the shop because of heavy rain. Just then, Seijo sees Aika walking toward him, soaked in the rain. Looking at Ainos, Aika asks her, "Have you really changed?" and then tells her she came just to see her. She asks Seijo if he still plans to keep his part-time job. Seijo replies that his real plan is to quit after summer vacation. Seeing Ainos looking a little sad, Seijo reassures her, "Even if it doesn't seem like it, you're standing on your own feet now. You don't need me anymore." Suddenly, Fuka enters the shop, drenched. Seeing Aika, she thanks her for the guidance she gave earlier, and Ainos calls her over to dry off, since the two often spend time chatting about books. After a short conversation and a small incident where Aika slips and falls into Seijo's arms, the girls laugh and say they didn't intend to spy and close the door. After that, Aika, looking a little hesitant, says, "I came to talk to you about coming over to our house." Seijo, surprised, asks, "You mean that invitation is still valid?" Aika nods and says, "Yes, but you'll have to act like a good big brother. And to be honest, I want you to come." The next day, while Seijo was mentally preparing himself to ring Aika's doorbell, Ki suddenly shows up and, without hesitation, rings the doorbell. Inside, Seijo introduces himself to Aika's little sister. It doesn't take long for him to realize that this little girl was full of energy, but Aika explains, "She's usually very quiet, but with you, she's just too excited." After playing a bit more, Seijo gets so tired that he nearly collapses. At that moment, Aika's mother returns home and Seijo straightens up and politely introduces himself saying, "I'm Seijo." Her mother smiles and says, "Oh, are you the Seijo my daughter often talks about?" Aika blushes and says, "Mom, my friends are leaving." Her mother walks to the door and tells Seijo, "Next time we meet, we'll have a longer talk." On the way home, Ki deliberately takes a different route so Aika and Seijo can have some time alone. Along the way, Aika says, "You know, school life has started feeling a lot more fun lately. Maybe it's because I've made so many friends now." Seijo, feeling a bit guilty, says, "Maybe that's my fault." But Aika shakes her head, "No, know. If it weren't for you, I would have never opened up. I would have never met people. My home situation, money troubles, they all kept me shut in. But you were the reason I learned to accept someone again. Yes, I have friends now, but even so, I feel like something's missing. Someone whose absence I notice all the time. Someone who's always there where I feel I belong, and that someone is you." Just then, fireworks explode in the sky, and startled by the loud noise, Aika clings to Seijo. Softly, she asks, "Won't you call my name again?" After the fireworks end, Aika quietly reaches for his fingers, and then she just grabs his hand. Then Seijo takes her hand fully in his hands and walks her home. The next morning, when Seijo heads out for school, he finds Aika waiting for him, just like she used to before. And that's where this beautiful anime comes to an end, and if you've watched until here, I would appreciate if you drop a like and subscribe to the channel so that we can reach 15,000 subs soon.